The alarm hits at 2:14 a.m. Not a gentle ring, a horn that shakes the walls and rips you out of the only 2 hours of sleep you've had in 20. Your feet hit the cold concrete floor before your brain turns on. You're pulling on 70 pounds of gear in under 60 seconds. Boots, pants, jacket, helmet, mask, air tank. You've done this 1,000 times. Your body runs on autopilot because your brain is still somewhere in a dream about a normal life. The engine rolls out into the dark. Sirens tearing through neighborhoods where everyone else is sleeping. Dispatch says structure fire, 2-story residential, possible entrapment. Possible entrapment means somebody might still be inside. Your heart rate jumps, but your face doesn't change because the rookie sitting next to you is watching, and if he sees you scared, he'll freeze. You're a firefighter. Not the calendar model, not the Dalmatian and the shiny red truck. Not the guy in the movie who walks out of the flames in slow motion with a baby in his arms and not a scratch on his face. You're the one breathing bottled air that gives you 20 minutes to live, crawling blind through black smoke on your hands and knees, dragging a hose line that weighs more than your wife. And you do this for less than a teacher's salary. Welcome to your life. You didn't decide to become a firefighter because of the money. Nobody does. You were 12. Maybe you saw the truck scream past your house and thought that was the coolest thing in the world. Maybe your uncle was a firefighter and he smelt like diesel and had the best stories at Thanksgiving. Maybe you just wanted to be the guy who runs in when everyone else runs out. Fire Academy. 6 months of controlled torture. You run until you vomit. You climb ladders carrying hose packs until your shoulders dislocate. You crawl through buildings filled with real smoke wearing a blacked out mask so you can't see your hand in front of your face. You learn to force open a locked door with an axe and a Halligan bar. You learn to cut a hole in a roof while standing on it. Think about that. You're standing on a burning building with a chainsaw, cutting the floor you're standing on to ventilate the fire below. If you cut wrong, you fall through into the fire. You learn SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus. Your air tank holds about 20 minutes of air at a normal breathing rate, but you're not breathing normally. You're dragging 200 pounds of hose through a burning house while your body temperature climbs to 160 degrees inside your gear. That 20 minutes becomes 12, maybe 10. When the low air alarm on your tank starts ringing, you have about 5 minutes to get out or die. It sounds like a little bell. The most terrifying little bell you'll ever hear. You need your EMT certification before most departments will even look at you. Some require paramedic. So you're also learning to start IVs, read cardiac rhythms, and push drugs because firefighters don't just fight fires anymore. 80% of your calls will be medical. Heart attacks, strokes, car wrecks, overdoses. You wanted to fight fire, you're going to fight death. Now you apply. Thousands of applicants for maybe 20 spots. The written test, the physical agility test, the interview, the background check that goes back to your 8th grade detention, the psych evaluation, where a therapist decides if you're stable enough to run into burning buildings. You need to be crazy enough to do the job, but sane enough to pass the test. Good luck with that. You got the job. Congratulations. You're the probie, the probationary firefighter, the bottom of the food chain. For the next year, you cook, you clean, you mop, you scrub toilets, you wash the trucks, and you shut up. You don't sit in the senior man's chair. You don't change the TV channel. The firehouse is your second home, sometimes your first home. You work 2 4-hour shifts, on duty at 7 a.m., off at 7 a.m. the next day. You will miss every other holiday, every other birthday, every other everything. Your schedule doesn't care about your kids' first steps. You sleep in a bunk room with 6 other guys. The snoring sounds like a chainsaw convention. You learn to sleep with one eye open because the alarm can hit at any second and you need to go from dead asleep to fully dressed in under a minute. Your body never fully relaxes. Even on your days off, you wake up at 2 a.m. thinking you heard a tone. The food. Firehouse cooking is legendary for a reason. It's the one good thing about this job. Everyone pitches in. The senior man makes his famous chili. The probie burns the toast and gets roasted for it for the next 6 months. You eat like kings because you might not eat again for 12 hours once the calls start rolling in. Brotherhood. This word means something in the fire service. The person sleeping 10 feet from you is the same person who will drag your unconscious body out of a collapsing building. You trust them with your life because you literally have to. Friendship is optional. Trust is mandatory. First real structure, fire. The engine pulls up and the house is fully involved. Flames rolling out of every window. Black smoke so thick it blocks the streetlights. The heat hits your face from 50 feet away, through your gear, through your helmet. It feels like opening an oven, except the oven is the size of a house and it wants to kill you. You mask up. The world shrinks to what you can see through a face piece covered in sweat and soot. You're on the nozzle. 200 gallons per minute of water exploding out of a hose that takes 2 people to control. You push through the front door. Visibility, 0. Temperature at the ceiling, 1,200 degrees. Temperature at the floor, 200 degrees. That's why you crawl, stand up, and you cook. Flashover. The single most dangerous word in firefighting. When everything in a room reaches ignition temperature simultaneously and the entire space explodes into flame at once. It happens in seconds. One moment you're advancing a hose line. The next moment the room is a furnace and you're inside it. Flashover kills firefighters. Not sometimes. Regularly. Backdraft. A ventilation-induced explosion. The fire has consumed all the oxygen in a sealed room. It's smoldering, waiting. You open a door. Fresh air rushes in. The fire has lunch. The explosion blows you off your feet and sends a fireball down the hallway. In the movies, it looks cool. In real life, it removes your eyebrows and your confidence simultaneously. The sounds. Fire doesn't just crackle, it roars. It sounds like a freight train made of rage. The building talks to you, creaking, groaning, popping. Those are warnings. The building is telling you it's about to fail. You have seconds to read a language that no school teaches. A floor collapse. You're walking on what feels like solid ground, and then suddenly you're not. You fall through into the basement, into the fire below, tangled in debris, your air running out. Mayday, 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 firefighter, down. If you're lucky, your crew finds you. If you're not, the memorial service is on Tuesday. Here's the secret nobody tells you. Most of your career won't be spent fighting fire. It'll be spent on medical calls that will haunt you worse than any flame ever could. The car wreck at 3 a.m. A teenager wrapped around a telephone pole. The car is so mangled you can't tell where the dashboard ends and the person begins. You use the jaws of life, a hydraulic tool that peels metal like a tin can. 20 minutes to cut someone free. They're screaming the whole time. Or worse, they're not screaming at all. The overdose in a gas station bathroom. You push Narcan. The person comes back gasping, confused, sometimes angry that you saved them. They'll be back next week. You'll save them again and again and again until the one time you don't get there fast enough. The child. Nobody prepares you for the children. You walk into a house and there's a toddler not breathing. Blue lips, limp body. The mother is screaming in a frequency that will live inside your skull forever. You start CPR on a chest the size of your hand. You breathe into lungs the size of tennis balls. The ambulance takes over. You stand in the front yard with tiny handprints of vomit on your turnout gear and you don't know if that kid is gonna make it. Nobody calls you to tell you the ending, you just carry it. Suicide calls. You cut people down from ropes, you pull people out of bathtubs, you walk into bedrooms and see things that no human should ever see. The family is in the next room. Sometimes they found the body, sometimes you explain it to them, you say past instead of what actually happened. You drive back to the station. Nobody talks about it. You eat dinner, you go to bed, you don't sleep. Myth. Firefighters are tough guys who don't feel anything. Reality, firefighters feel everything. They're just professionally trained to feel it later, alone, in the dark. Your gear weighs 70 pounds. Add the air tank, that's 100. Now add a hose pack on your shoulder, 150 pounds of equipment on your body while climbing stairs in a building that's actively on fire. Your core temperature hits 104 degrees. Heat exhaustion starts at 103. You are medically in danger while doing your job correctly. Heart attacks. The #1 killer of firefighters on duty. Not fire, not collapse, heart attacks. The combination of extreme physical exertion, Heat stress, dehydration, and adrenaline turns your heart into a ticking bomb. Firefighters are young, fit, and they still drop dead on scene. Cancer. Here's the one that really gets you. The International Agency for Research on Cancer classified firefighting as carcinogenic to humans. Group 1. Same category as asbestos and tobacco. The smoke you breathe, the soot that soaks through your skin, the chemicals in burning plastics and furniture, they're all carcinogens. Over 60% of firefighter line of duty deaths are now caused by cancer. Not burns, not collapses, cancer. The fire follows you home. It lives in your gear, in your pores, in your blood. Firefighters have a 58% higher mortality rate for skin cancer, 40% higher for kidney cancer, 100% higher risk of mesothelioma. The gear that protects you from flames is soaked in the chemicals that will kill you 20 years later. You survive the fire doesn't care. It waits. Your lungs. Even with SCBA, you're exposed during overhaul, the phase after the fire is out, when you're pulling apart walls looking for hidden fire. Most guys take their masks off because it's just smoke. That just smoke is a cocktail of benzene, formaldehyde, hydrogen cyanide, and 100 other things that will shred your respiratory system. Your knees, your back, your shoulders. You're an athlete performing at maximum capacity with no warm-up in extreme conditions, wearing heavy equipment on unstable surfaces. Most firefighters retire with at least one chronic injury. The median salary for a firefighter in America is $59,530 a year. $59,000. To run into burning buildings, cut people out of cars, perform CPR on children, and breathe cancer for a living. The lowest 10% make under $34,000. That's $16 an hour to risk your life every shift. Rookie pay in a lot of departments, barely above the poverty line for a family of 4. You're working a side job on your days off. Landscaping, construction, personal training. Half the firefighters in America work a second job just to pay rent. The guy who saved your grandmother last Tuesday is mowing lawns on Wednesday because the city won't pay him enough to live. Your department is running trucks from the 1990s because the city council voted to fund a new park instead. Your turnout gear should be replaced every 10 years. Some departments stretch it to 15, 20. You're wearing gear saturated with carcinogens from a decade of fires, and nobody will pay to replace it. Volunteer firefighters. 70% of firefighters in America are volunteers. They get paid nothing, zero. They have day jobs, families, lives, and when the pager goes off, they leave all of it to go save strangers for free. The backbone of American fire protection is literally unpaid labor. 20% of firefighters develop PTSD at some point in their career. That's the same rate as military veterans returning from combat. Except nobody calls you a veteran, nobody gives you a parade. You just go to work, stack trauma on top of trauma, and pretend you're fine, because that's what firefighters do. The dead children, they're the ones that break you. You can handle the adults, you can rationalize it, but the kids, there's no rationalizing a dead 3-year-old. You carry that face in your head like a photograph you can't burn. Firefighters are more likely to die by suicide than in the line of duty. Read that again. More firefighters kill themselves than die in fires. The suicide rate is 18 per 100,000 compared to 13 for the general population. At least 100 firefighter suicides every year. A quarter of all firefighters have considered it. The toughest people you know are silently drowning. The culture doesn't help. For decades, the fire service has run on a simple rule: suck it up, don't talk about it, don't cry, don't be weak. You saw a dead kid, have a beer and get over it. This culture is killing firefighters more efficiently than any fire ever could. You don't sleep right anymore. Every siren on the street spikes your adrenaline. You flinch at car backfires. Your wife says you scream in your sleep. Your therapist says you have hypervigilance. You say you're just paying attention. So why? Why would anyone do this? Because when you kick in that door and you hear a voice screaming through the smoke and you find them and you grab them and you carry them out into the air and they take that first breath, that is the single greatest feeling a human being can experience. You just pulled someone out of death with your bare hands. No doctor, no medicine, no machine, just you. Because the 4-year-old you pulled out of that bedroom window is now 14, and her mom sends you a card every year on the anniversary. She doesn't know your name. She calls you my firefighter. That card is in your locker. You'll never throw it away. Because at 3 a.m. on Christmas morning, when the rest of the world is asleep, you're sitting in a fire station with your crew eating leftover pie, and somebody tells a story that makes milk come out of the rookie's nose, and for 10 minutes there's nowhere else you'd rather be. Because when that final alarm comes, when they play taps and fold the flag and drape it over a box that holds someone who gave everything, you stand at attention in your dress blues with tears running into your collar, and you know that this mattered. All of it. Every sleepless night, every scar, every nightmare, it mattered. Myth. Firefighters are fearless. Reality, firefighters are terrified. They do it anyway. That's not the absence of fear. That's the definition of courage. The next time a fire truck screams past you at 2 a.m. and you roll over in bed annoyed by the siren, there's a person on that truck who kissed their kids goodnight knowing they might not come home. They make $59,000 a year. They have a 60% chance of getting cancer from the job. They have a higher chance of killing themselves than dying in a fire. And they went anyway, because you called 911. And somebody has to go. Your firefighter ran into a burning building today for $29 an hour with someone else's future on his shoulders. Hired to the end. In the next episode, you're a paramedic, not the ambulance driver, the one kneeling in a pool of blood on the highway at midnight, making decisions in 60 seconds that surgeons make in 6 hours. Your patient is screaming, your partner is holding a tourniquet, and the helicopter is 7 minutes away. 7 minutes. That's a lifetime when someone's bleeding out. History is pain. Learn the truth. Subscribe to Hired to the End. Last alarm. We're going back to quarters. See you next shift.